When it comes to mandating what goes into or happens to a person's body, there's an intimacy there. There's something inalienable about the body and the physiological processes in the body. There's an intimacy that's broken, an invasion into what should be private by the state. And that's why I think that these healthcare mandates are trespassing or crossing a line that they should never cross.
Hey folks, welcome to the DarkHorse Podcast. I have the pleasure and honor today of sitting with Julie Ponesse, who is a doctor of philosophy, ethics, and ancient philosophy, and until this year was teaching at the University of Western Ontario in the Heron College. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you so much. Delighted to be here.
Well, I'm very excited to talk to you. I'm a biologist, as my listeners will know, but I have a deep interest in philosophy, especially the philosophy of science, but of course, all the philosophies are tied together. And this year, we have seen the interaction of the philosophy of science with the questions of ethics. So I'm very much interested to hear what you have to tell us about the way these things interact. But before you do that, could you tell us the story of what's happened to you this year?
Sure. So until last September, I taught philosophy, especially ethical theory, applied ethics, history of ethics, ancient philosophy, political philosophy, history, political philosophy, those kinds of things at Western University, Heron College in particular, in London, Ontario. And when they started discussing mandates in the educational sector, in the summer, I guess it was, and then we got word about 2 weeks before school started that my institution was going to be implementing one of the vaccine mandates. I wrote to some of the senior administration at Heron, so my chair, president, and dean, and just expressed my concerns. I didn't say that I was opposed to providing proof of vaccination, but I expressed my concerns about the mandate generally speaking. And I didn't get a response from that email. It was a long email with footnotes, I mean, you ask an academic to provide thoughts on something, that's what you're going to get. And I didn't get a response to that email. And then I think it was sort of the first week of September. I mean, classes here start second week of September. So it was imminent, the start of classes. And I knew that teaching assignments needed to be sorted out. I had a big amphitheater style class I was about to teach. And I didn't know if I was going to be teaching or not. And then I got an email from my dean saying, so can I assume from this, and he was referencing that long email I had sent a couple of weeks earlier. So can I assume from this that you plan not to comply with the mandate? Initially, I didn't respond because I knew based on what had happened with other colleagues that as soon as you respond to that email saying, I won't comply, then most people were getting termination letters within like hours, if not, or that day or something. So I didn't respond, but then I thought about it and I thought, well, I know I don't respond. I object. And I think that it's important to be clear about that. I mean, both for the sake of transparency and for me sorting out what's happening going forward and for them to get someone else to teach for all involved. And so I made it very clear that I planned not to comply with their COVID policy, which didn't just require proof of vaccination to be uploaded, but also to mask fully and completely in the classroom. And I stated clearly that I would not do any of those things. And then while that email exchange was happening, I can't remember the exact day, but I recorded a video that was meant as sort of a last lecture on ethics to my incoming class that year to talk a bit about the ethics of mandating a medical choice. And that came out, I think it was Labor Day, and unanticipated by myself, sort of went viral. I was away for the day and I came back to my phone and my phone was just exploding and I had no idea what happened. And anyway, long story short, I got a letter from my dean that was a termination with cause letter, both for refusing to comply with the mandate and then also doing so in a public way.
Wild. Yes, I've seen that video, and I will put a link to it in the description of this podcast so people can look at it. And I think watching it was extremely emotional for me. It clearly was for you making it. And I think I know why, because I remember quite well the last time that I taught my students, and events had unfolded very rapidly, and it became clear that the college did not intend to create a safe working environment. And I was literally meeting with my students in a public park because it was not safe to be on campus. And, you know, one invests in a career. And if one's any good at this particular career, one invests in individual human beings that you come to know and care about, and to face them and realize that you are being ushered out the door by an institution that really has no business in that relationship is, it's a powerful moment.
My name is Julie Ponesse, and this message is about mandatory vaccinations. I am a professor of ethics at Heron College at the University of Western Ontario. It's one of the largest universities in Canada. Today, I'm going to teach you a short lesson on the universally accepted ethics of coercing people into medical procedures. I'll be the example. My employer has just mandated that I must get a vaccine for COVID-19. If I want to keep working at my job as a professor, I have to take this vaccine. Here's my conundrum. My school employs me to be an authority on the subject of ethics. I hold a PhD in ethics and ancient philosophy. And I'm here to tell you it's ethically wrong to coerce someone to take a vaccine. If it happens to you, you don't have to do it. If you don't want a COVID vaccine, don't take one. End of discussion. It's your own business. But that is not the approach of the University of Western Ontario, which has suddenly required that I be vaccinated immediately or not report for work. So with the school year beginning in a few days, I am facing imminent dismissal after 20 years on the job, because I will not submit to having an experimental vaccine injected into my body. I've had plenty of vaccines in my life, but I've never been forced to take one. It's always been my choice. I don't work in a high-risk environment. I'm not a doctor in an emergency room. I'm a teacher. I'm a university professor. My job is to teach students how to think critically, to ask questions that might expose a false argument. Questions like, says who? Who is the authority giving this order? Should I trust them with control over my body? As a professor, I don't have to watch the news to find out if the COVID vaccines are safe. I read medical journals, and I consult my colleagues who are professors of science and medicine. I've learned from doctors that there are serious questions about how safe these vaccines really are. There are questions about how well they work. Nobody's promising that I won't get COVID or transmit COVID if I get the vaccine. But ultimately, none of that matters to me, because I'm a professor of ethics and I'm a Canadian. I'm entitled to make choices about what does and does not enter my body, regardless of my reasons. If I'm allowed back into my university, it's my job to teach my students that this is wrong. I'm hired to teach them that it is ethically wrong to impose an experimental medical procedure as a condition of employment. This is my first and potentially my last lesson of the year. Ethics 101. In the spirit of Socrates, who was executed for asking questions, this lesson will consist of only one question. The answer is multiple choice. Please listen carefully. When a person has done the same job to the satisfaction of her employer for 20 years, is it right or is it wrong to suddenly demand that they submit to an unnecessary medical procedure in order to keep their job. In this case, the procedure is an injection of a substance that has not been fully tested for safety. It has not yet been shown to be effective. It is designed to prevent an illness that poses little threat to the employee. The employee is not allowed to ask questions. She may only submit to the procedure or be fired. To my first-year students, is this right or is this wrong? I already know the answer.
That was amazing, Julie.